At the end of my 25 years on the faculty of Boston College, I ran our Center for Ignatian Spirituality, the intent being to bring that Ignatian vision to faculty and staff especially. And I noticed there was wonderful programming, all kinds of things, and especially during the season of Lent. Penance services, options for spiritual direction, spiritual conversation, faith-sharing groups, and then Easter, boom, end of programming. So on the one hand, preparing for Easter, but then I thought, why don't we do programming reflecting on Easter? Now, this is not an original idea. For any of you familiar with the rite of Christian initiation of adults, these 50 days from Easter to Pentecost are called mystagogia. In effect, with the newly baptized, all of us, the baptized, reflect on what difference does it make that Jesus rose from the dead? What difference does it make? Gerard Manley Hopkins, the Jesuit poet who was able to use poetic license, turned the noun Easter into a verb. And if there's anything I want you to recall from this homily is this: how does Jesus Easter in us? Easter in us. Now, Eastering in us, giving us hope, reminding us of the destiny to which we have been called as beloved children of God, reflecting on the mystery of the resurrection, where life overcomes death, where hatred is cast out by love, where despair gives way to hope. Easter in us. And so today, we are pondered to reflect on this third Sunday of Easter precisely what is the meaning of the resurrection for us. And so appropriately, the Church presents us in the Acts of the Apostles and in the Gospel the memory of someone dear to this community. St. Peter is the character who figures prominently in our readings today. First, we hear about him in the Acts of the Apostles, placing himself willingly in harm's way for the sake of the name. That experience of being with Christ, so powerful that it means more than anything else, giving up safety and comfort, knowing that Christ never, ever abandons us. And we know from the scriptures, Peter, bumbling, often not getting the picture right away, and not courageous. Think of the triple denial of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, after that event of the Passion. And yet we see him now changed, energized, and in fact, ultimately suffers the same fate that Jesus did, laying down his life for love. And then we hear this beautiful gospel story. Now, I'm quite fond of visuals to accompany what I'm saying. And this scene of the risen Lord with the fishermen, voila, there it is. And let me call attention to several features here. One of the features that I really like about this depiction is up in the upper left-hand corner. And it is a fisherman kind of dressed like fishermen would be today. And a message for that, I think, is this: that, Ignatius said, God is like a schoolmaster. God is like a teacher. in directing the exercises. And I've often said to people, well, if Jesus is the teacher, what's the textbook? People say the scriptures, the tradition, that is all true. But also the textbook is the experience of our lives. Jesus comes to us where we are, where we live, not in some otherworldly place, but in this place. And he accompanies us, and he walks with us. We also hear in the gospel, after the scene about fishing, Jesus offering to Peter the gift of reconciliation and forgiveness. Back to the crowing of the rooster. 3 times, Peter loving Jesus, but yet overcome by fear and denying him. And Jesus, in this 21st chapter of John's Gospel, asks Peter 3 times, Peter, do you love me? And Peter, time and time again, says, yes, Lord, I love you. You know I love you. And the response of Jesus is this: tend my flock, feed my sheep. And I think that Jesus asks the same thing of each of us. Do you love me? And you do. You wouldn't be here otherwise. And just as he said to Peter, if you love me, take care of others, feed my sheep. And I think for all of us, when we allow Jesus to Easter in us, we become a source of blessing for others because of our love of God. And so, in your life, who are the sheep who might be lost, away from the flock, stranded? And if you love Jesus, take care of them. Not by telling them what to do necessarily, not by lording it over, but by accompanying them, listening to them, spending time with them, hearing their story, coming to understand them. And for those sheep who have been neglected, those who are marginalized, those who have been forgotten, those who have suffered exclusion, yes, if we love Jesus, we tend to them. That the disenfranchised and the marginalized, their reality shapes our priorities. Because as St. Ignatius says at the end of the exercises, love expresses itself much more in deeds than in words. And so, my friends, I am delighted to be with you, to Easter with you today, as we continue to ponder the power of the resurrection, and also especially in this Easter 2022. Several weeks ago, in the New York Times, Bret Stephens and Gail Collins had an article called 2022, Not a Year for Optimists. And I think they were right. There is much that is worrisome for us, that is frightening. Thank God maybe we're coming out of COVID, but certainly when we look at Ukraine and the divisions among us in our country and our church, we turn to Christ. And we are not optimistic, but we are hopeful, because the one who calls us never abandons us. The one who laid down his life for us is risen from the dead, and may he Easter in us.